Welcome to Live Free. I'm Angela K. Austin. Together, we'll discuss books, we'll explore the world, and we'll do it with some of my closest friends. And hopefully, we'll make new ones along the way.
Hey everybody, this is Angela K. Austin, and today I'm here with my girl Kenya Wright, and we're going to talk about her writing, what she does, why she does it, why she loves it, and why we are here together today. Can you say hi to everybody?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. I'm impressed and I'm honored. I'm very honored to be on here.
This is my honor. Let me tell you guys, I have not known Kenya for very long. I met her on a cruise. And literally, when I met her on a cruise, I was like, this lady is cool. It was like your mom and your sister were with
Yes, my mother and sister came along. I was looking a little crazy. I had my whole setup, the luggage bag, dragging it with all my keyboard and the laptop and my hand braces.
I mean, really, it was like every time I saw her, she was making me feel guilty. I'm on the cruise, like, you know, she's like, let's get down. We came here to do this. But it was so cool when I got to meet Kenya. And I'll tell you guys, because you guys know this channel is all about diversity. It's all about exploring. It's all about uplifting and, you know, getting to learning things, knowing things. And when I met Kenya, she shared that she and her family, her whole family had lived in other countries and they've done this world exploring. And you guys know I found that fascinating because I'm trying to be my own kind of nomad. I'm trying to do this thing. I'm right there with you. So I literally reached out to Kasana DeWitt, for those of you who know this world of self-publishing. And because I didn't know Kenya well, and I was like, hey, do you think? And she was like, yeah, she's cool. I was like, okay, now, you know. But it was so wild because before I even got the chance to reach out and ask you, you had watched an episode and you had commented.
Yes.
And when you commented, I was like, oh, side-eye. Let me go ahead and slide.
Yes. It's you are doing big things over here. And can I tell you yesterday, okay, I don't want to sound creepy, but I watched the interview you did with Beverly. Yeah, I'm saying on the first name basis. Like, she don't know me.
You know Beverly.
She don't know me.
She go way back.
I watched that twice. I watched it first while I was eating breakfast. Because I had the day before when you posted it, I commented, and I said, I'm gonna watch this when I eat breakfast.
Yeah, I saw that.
Then the next day I woke up, I had my oatmeal, I had my tea. I was excited because I don't get to see a lot of authors, especially Black romance authors.
Yeah.
I barely ever get to see that. So I watched that yesterday morning, then that afternoon, I watched it again. Then I went and looked at your Phoenix interview. Like, I have looked at several of your interviews in these past couple of days.
And that's exactly what we want to do with this. We want to be able to show people that there are people out there who may not have that weight of one of the major publishing houses behind who are doing some big things. Now, Miss Beverly, that's one thing. And
oh my God.
With her presence.
Girl, when she talked about, when she said the Summer of Love, 1994, breaking it down. When you talked about going to Howard, to me, it was Howard, right?
Yes,
When all of that together, it just, because I was coming out of high school, 94, getting ready to join the military.
Okay.
And so it's just, it was nostalgic. I remember when Black started being a thing. You know, I remember reading her and Terry McMillan and all of these different authors, and just, I don't know, it was just so inspiring. That whole interview, talking about entertainment and education and uniting it together and the research you do. I didn't mean this to be a reaction video for the Beverly. But that was such a great interview. So I've been posting and sharing that all over.
I appreciate that. That is much love. Thank you so much for being, a part of this whole thing. And I was like, literally, when I saw your comment, because you guys, when we were on this cruise, there were so many people who were like, Kenya, and I was like, I felt like, so many people who read in this whole world of self-pub, indie authors, They
Yeah.
love you. They love what you do. And it's like,
Wow.
and I don't, how long have you been writing, Kenya? Because you have this upswell, you have this love. How long have you been
Thank
out there doing
you.
it?
Yeah, some people don't realize I've been writing for 10 years,
What? No.
46 novels.
What?
Even
Are
my
you
own
serious?
readers don't realize it. They're like, I just had a fan say to me, you know what? I just found like 2 different series. I was like, yes, I wrote that like fucking, sorry to curse, like 2012 or something.
Really?
So I've been writing for a long time in every book.
Why have you just now popped on my radar?
You know what? Because I never went to any of the conventions.
Oh.
I never had the money to go to the convention.
Yeah.
I never really got out of my little corner of the internet or my area.
Okay.
So last year was me, and it's funny because I was like 2019 and 2020, I'm coming out. I'm gonna be going to all the conventions. I'm gonna be meeting authors, and then of course coronavirus.
Oh my God, coronavirus, COVID-19. In the world of self-publishing, so many people, especially when they get that first contract, if they're with like a small digital publisher, or like if they're indie publishing, kind of have this idea like, oh, if I just put a book out there, it's gonna instantly be like $1 million.
Yes.
Get all the coins, you gotta go anywhere. Because I used to, when I first started publishing, I was working full time, and I had a couple of different publishers, and I was like, oh, they'll do everything for me, right? That's how it
That's
works.
right.
And I won't have to do anything. They'll do everything. It'll be amazing, and I'll make tons of dough, and I'll have a cottage in the woods on a lake with some horses. So I was, so I didn't do a lot of conferences and stuff for a long time. I was kind of like you. I was in my own little place, doing my own thing. But then a lot of my friends, they started doing self-publishing maybe 5-6 years ago. And I was like, oh, that's so much work. I work full time.
So much, yeah.
I don't want to do that. So I was like you, and because I've been out here for now, like 12 years. And then
wow.
I know. And then for about maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 years or so, I hadn't really done anything new. What people have seen come out for me is literally friends of mine, because I had a whole lot of things that I was going through just personally, and so I wasn't writing.
And personal stuff will mess with that writing.
It
definitely will.
You can't, and but my friends were like, oh no, you should write. So they got me into all those anthologies. They're like, it's only 15,000 words. It's only 20,000 words. I'm like, ugh. But when you don't feel like writing, when you don't have the energy, it's hard. So I was like you. So what made you finally decide to step out there and come and join us?
Well, like I said, it was financial. For the first year when I started writing, I was doing so much, and I don't even understand how I did it now. I was finishing law school. I was pregnant with my 3rd kid. I was working full time for Department of Labor, and I was writing a book. And I don't know how I could never do that now. Like right now, that's that young age stuff, right? So then, 2-3 years later, I finished school, baby's there, the 3rd one's there, and then I have a nice little, I have a nice little flow going, and my ex-husband leaves us. He's like, well, he didn't leave initially. He said, hey, I would like to add wives to this marriage. So that's how I was like, no. So he went off with his wives and his different, situations. And I was just kind of left there with the kids trying to write and work. And so I had that idea where I was like, I'm already writing books. If I can do this full time, I'm going to be a millionaire. Obviously. There's no, obviously, right? Quit my job with no plan, no savings, because I'm going to be a millionaire, okay? You know? Yeah. So, as you can guess, me and the kids battled with poverty for years. And the only thing that kept us going was that I kept writing.
Yeah.
And I wrote for survival. And so 2018 was the point where we were living, and able, and I can travel, and I can finally say, I can afford a conference ticket, or I can afford to do this or that. I was finally getting that traction, making the money, gone through the obstacles, and I finally felt able to go and talk to other authors, because I used to always think, oh man, like, how are they doing it? How are they doing it? And finally, I felt like I can sit and stand next to these other authors and see, I did it too. I'm here with y'all. What's your name? My name Kenya.
That's amazing, because, you know, like, literally, when I talk to women who are not necessarily in their 20s about, you know, taking chances, people who are a mother, you know, people who are parents, that's one of the big things. They're like, you know, I can't take that chance because I have children. I'm not a mother. I've never been a mother, and I don't know what kind of checklist you do for yourself when you make that kind of a decision, because that is a huge, big, amazing decision to make. It's like, you know what I mean? But not only just because of course, the obvious, the impact on you and your children, but your children's trust in their parental figure.
Oh my God.
There, you know, and it's like, you know, they're trusting their mother that, hey, mom's not crazy.
She's got it together. Like, they would always say, like, I'm sitting here, you know, and this was early 30s when I left, dropped out. So I knew better. By this time, I knew better. But I did it because, you know, when you're in those first years of divorce, it's, you know, my hair, half of my side. They say don't do your hair when you're divorced, right? After divorce, wait a couple years. I didn't. Half my side of my hair was platinum blonde. The other was black. I was crazy.
You expressing yourself.
But the kids constantly would say, oh, you're going to make it, Mom. You're going to make it. And I'm like, am I going to make it? And there was many nights I cried. You know, we had to go stay with my mother for several months. And every dang month, I am writing for my life, writing for the kids, writing to make it, talking about what I'm doing. There was a lot of books where the mother's struggling. Lots of times where the mother had to go through stuff, dealing with depression, dealing with the ability to just believe that you can reach that goal, even though you cannot see it. You can't see. I'm in a roach-infested apartment at one point. Like, I'm meditating, the roaches are falling on me, roach-infested. Okay, and I had a vision board, and it said a set amount of royalties a month. It was like 7 figures every month. I said I'm gonna make, and I'm gonna write these amount of books, and me and the kids are gonna go traveling, and we're gonna do this. And a year later, I did it. I was making 7 figures a month. I was traveling, and I didn't have to ask nobody for anything. But we went through a lot, and it just makes me want to cry sometimes when I look back, and like my daughter will say, "Ma, I told you." Or the kids will say, "I told you." And I was like, that's the biggest gift I could have given them, because I didn't believe a lot of the time that I could make it.
You know, but the fact that, like, I love what you said about, you know, kind of like, even if you can't see the success, you know, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but even when you can't see it, you still had that vision board, and you told yourself, you know, I'm not going to give up. And, you know, and maybe it came from your children believing in you and not allowing you to stop believing in yourself. Maybe it's because you never stopped believing in yourself, and seeing their hope kept you moving. Or maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe it's because you did have the option of your mother and other people to support you. But I love that you said you never gave up.
Never.
And then you took that pain and you took that life and you put it into your
book. I always tell people to do that. Put it in books. You know, if you're hurting, if you're crying while you're writing it, oh, that's going to make some money. there.
Yeah.
That's gonna make some money.
Yeah. It's gonna be so raw and it's gonna be so
Yes.
real. And I tell people that all the time because, you know, like I said, people saw me put those smaller pieces out.
Mm-hmm.
They were, you know, like I say, those short stories and those novellas. And I had stopped because it was like because I'd lost my parents a few years back, and after I
Oh,
lost them, it was very hard to write outside of that emotion, right?
and all
Because
the grief,
all the
right?
grief, it was all you, it was
Yeah.
all that was there. It was like, how do you work around this pain? How do you actually feel love or hope? And it was really, really difficult. And honestly, if it wasn't for friends who were just like, oh, you just need to keep writing. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you people don't stop talking to me. Shut up, go away, shoot fly. You know, like I didn't want to be bothered, you know. I just wanted to waddle in my self-pity. But it was
But that's the big thing. The support system is huge.
Yes, yeah.
That's what I learned
Yeah.
too. It was like you have to have a circle of friends who love and support you.
You do.
And big you up.
You have to. It's like that's one of the things that I was talking with some friends about just last night, Kenya. Is like one of the reasons that I started this whole channel was because I want to do whatever I can to reach across, like Miss Jenkins, like Beverly said the other day. She was like, and I had not heard anybody say it like this, because I always heard people talk about bringing the next person over or behind them, or opening a window. But what Miss Beverly said was that she wants to make the path wider. And so somebody walking shoulder and shoulder with her. And you know, and I do get bringing somebody along with you, you know. I'm never mad at that. I love that. But I love the way she said making it wider, because you know that means to somebody like me that this phenomenal author who's had this 30-year career,
incredible career too.
Yes, an incredible career. She wants to make space for you and for me, so we can have that same kind of incredible longevity and success. And that's what this is all about, you know, being able to reach out to you and have you say yes to be on this. I had no idea that we've been writing and doing this game for the same amount of time, right?
Same amount, yeah. And you were longer though.
Yeah, you were for a couple of years, but I dropped off because I just, you know, emotionally wasn't able to participate. Yeah, you know, but it's amazing to me, and I love that you put it into your books. Now, before we start talking about some more of those books, I want to talk about some of this travel, some of this that you've been doing.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what that was like when you hit this vision board goal and you had your finances straight. Then you had this opportunity to travel, so of course you hit.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit more about that and what being a family that travels, what that looked like for you and your kids.
That was my dream. I said, when you go through a rough years and you fall on your butt, basically, in some sense, right? You're not gonna be as scared about things as much as you used to be, you know, because you didn't have a comfortable couple years. So we struggled and we'd gone through so much that traveling with the kids and road schooling, because first it happened with me homeschooling the kids. And so once I started homeschooling them and I'm full-time writing, we don't have anywhere we need to be. We can go anywhere we want to go. And that's where it started clicking. So then at first I went to Paris. That was like my first time going just by myself though. I went to Paris, and in the middle of this trip, everybody knows about me getting arrested for terrorism because I'm writing a book about French gangsters shooting up Paris and whatever.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that story. Oh my God, that was crazy. We have to share that story too.
People who write in Paris, be very careful what you write, because they are watching and they are looking. Don't talk about bombing Paris up if you're in Paris, okay? But after that, I was like, oh man, I love Paris. And you know how it is. When you travel, you change your mind, you change your outlook, you change your experience. I read a science article where they said, and I don't know how true it is, but they were talking about how when you go to other locations on the planet, you open different parts of your mind that wasn't open before, scientifically, right? So that's kind of what made me want to start taking the kids. So the first thing we did, I did a test nomad trip where we left Florida where we're living and swooped up to Washington and was in the mountains for a while. And then we went to Vancouver, Canada. And then we went to Montreal. We stayed in Montreal for like several months. And then we went down to New York, and then we went to New Orleans, and that's where I met up with y'all. They went with their dad. Then I went to, after the whole cruise and stuff, I ended up going to Thailand for a couple of months.
Wow.
And chilling. And then swooping back and getting them, by then they're in Oregon with their dad, because their dad's now hopping around too. So they're like in Oregon by the time I meet them again. And then I take them from Oregon, we go to Puerto Rico. And we were in Puerto Rico for probably 3 months, came back to Florida. I had wrote visas and everything for China, because we were, it's now I think I laugh. We were supposed to be in China right now. China, Japan, Korea, and Malaysia were the 4 different places. Wow. From summer to fall. And of course, as you know, everything ended. Yep. The universe is like, y'all gonna sit down and relax. So now we're in Atlanta.
That is amazing though. I mean, honestly, what must it be like for like somebody like, oh, what did you do for your summer break or spring break? Your kids have a heck of a story to share. I mean, it is, you know, the thing, like, I had never read that scientific study, but I can completely believe it. I know I remember having a conversation with some friends, and I was like, oh my God, if more people traveled, I believe there would be less division, less racism, less. Because we would all see just how similar we are. Because honestly, every time I explore a new country, that's what I find. I'm like, oh, I mean, I went to China, and we went for dim sum. Ooh. And I bit into, like, it was like a big old sticky bun, right?
I'm so jealous.
They were like, this is a pork sticky bun. I bite into it. I'm like, this is just barbecue pork. It's like, so, who, you know what I mean? Who's Southern in your family? Who's Black in your family? It was just so crazy to me to be over here in, you know, in China and to find something, you know what I mean, that was so reminiscent.
And similar to how we eat, right?
Exactly.
The connection.
The connections. It's incredible. If we all just took a pause and stopped trying to figure out how so divided, you know, or so different we are, so we would divide ourselves.
Yes.
We would see that those differences are what make us unique, but that we are very similar. And, you know, and that it should bring us together instead of dividing us. But
yes.
You know.
And even too, you go to other countries and you look at poverty. And for me, especially in Thailand and in some parts of Puerto Rico, my idea of poverty is completely different now. It's like some of the ghettos in the US is what some people in other countries would aspire to be. You know, and the idea of racism and classism and the fact that, you know, there's a lot of problems I have with America, of course, as a Black woman, as a mother of a Black son and Black daughters. However, you go into other countries, and I remember talking to the Uber driver in Thailand, and he was like, I was asking him, oh, how's your king? Because it's like a king for the country. And how's your king in the government? And he was like, are you recording? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, I don't record it or post it. And he was talking about all the things that was wrong. And he said, but if they ever found out, he could be jailed. And, you know, it makes you think, oh, I mean, I have my problems with America, but there are some things that I do like freedom of speech.
No, you were exactly right. Because when I went to India on a mission trip. Ooh. And that's
another one I want to go to.
I loved India, but I loved it for so many different reasons. But one of the things that I really loved about it was this opportunity to partner with this church there that at the time I went, that church had been around for less than 2 years. Less than
Wow.
2 years. But they had started up a program that was a medical program that provided medical care for people who lived in the slums. They provided an education. They had a school. They pulled in children from the slums into the schools to educate them. They had a job training program for women who were victims of domestic abuse. And it was like this church has done all this in less than 2 years.
Wow.
And if you go into these slums, and I did a reflections video on it because, I mean, honestly, it blew me away because, you know, when we went into the slums, one of the first things they said was, you know, don't let the children see you react. And I was like, what does that look like? What does that mean? But then, you know, you get on this bus and you see all these children and you're like, oh, and it hit me like square in my spirit. Can you explain it? Because it hit me so hard to where I literally turned around and got off the bus because I couldn't hold back like the tears. So I had to go and kind of check myself and then get back onto the bus. But here in our country, in America, we talk about this poverty level. But, you know, and it's a real level because of our living. It's a real level. Who we are, you know, but these children were literally drinking from like the same water as goats. And they were, they didn't even have outhouses. You know, you're digging holes, you know, and covering holes. You know, they're literally paying rent to live in bona fide landfills.
Straight up.
And
Straight
you know,
up.
so it puts you in perspective. It's like, I'm like any other woman my age, you know, I have a few different degrees. I've tried different things. You know, I've lived on a certain level. You know, you've lived on a certain level. We've all lived at certain level.
Yeah.
Right? But like you just expressed, you're meditating and you got roaches falling on you, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I quit my full-time job and I was like, whatever happens. It happens. We're gonna flow with life.
You're gonna push through it.
You're gonna push through it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just. But honestly, I attribute a lot of it to those children. They were very content and very happy with very little, but they felt safe and loved by their parents, you know. And they had these huge smiles and these big, you know. And I'm like, you know, my heart inside was like, oh, my babies, let's take all you babies back to America.
I want to take care of you. I want to provide.
Go back.
Yes.
Know? Because that's what my head immediately went to was, you know, but they were safe. They were safe with their families and happy.
Yes. And loved.
And loved, exactly.
And you find out it's the basics sometimes. It's the basics, you know. Yeah. My family thinks I'm crazy. You know, I have a small percentage, you know, my mother thinks this is great. My sister thinks it's great. But I have a lot of aunts, a lot of uncles, a lot of people who are like, you got them kids all around, pushing them here and here. Y'all they're never really they're not going to be stable. And somebody said, when you die, they're going to be all alone. What? Like, let's relax.
It's like, wait.
Calm down.
You know what are we talking about?
They have, you know, when we were traveling, now they're happy too because we're in a land, they all have their own rooms and they haven't been sitting for a minute, so they're chilling. Yeah. You know, this is vacation for them, being in one spot kind of, you know, but everybody had their own suitcase and that was it. And like my cousins would be like, oh, that's horrible. Where's all their stuff and where all their... My kids don't want that. They have a PS4 that they travel with, okay? And they have their phones, they have laptops. This is a different generation. They are linked in and hooked in. They don't need, you know, toys and dolls and all that, but they're experiencing and they love the experiences. They love playing, you know, playing on a mountain in Puerto Rico with like 20 kids, some can speak English, some can speak Spanish, and they're all playing for several months and having a blast, you know, seeing beautiful beaches and stuff.
I think, but that's the thing though, because I keep threatening my family that I'm gonna move into a tiny house, you know.
Oh, that's a dream of mine.
It is
Tiny house, yes.
It's gonna be me, a little tiny house and whatever. But I think that for me, I found that as I had these different transitions in life, I started to focus on the things like what's really important to me as a human, you know,
Thank you.
as a woman, and like what do I want, you know? And I'm like,
Yes.
this is my list. My list is boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And you know, do I really, you know, need much outside of that? And that's actually some of the stuff that, you know, that I put into my books. And, you know, and I want to talk about some of this, how it transitioned into your books, because I know, like, for me, like you know, my books will deal with depression, they'll deal with loss, they'll deal with starting over. A lot of my women are in corporate environments, you know, they start their own businesses, because those are things I've done. I've started my own.
So independent women.
Independent women, you know, women who, although, you know, they may start out at a loss, or at some point during the story they may lose, in the end, because, you know, I'm kind of in that women's fiction straddling the line romance, you know, so in the end, you know, part of what I want to be a part of my journey, my women's journey, is how they end up actualizing kind of this own personal journey or goal that they're on.
There we go.
So tell me, with your travels and your losses and what's on that vision board, what has translated into those books that you've been writing for the last 10 years?
You know, it's wow. It usually becomes, well, I have two series that are doing just insanely well. So I'll go back, I will continue those series. It's a Russian Mafia series and a French Mafia series, and they're both the enemies of each other, if that makes any sense. So they're interconnected, and I like add a book to each one. But in the middle of that, I'll do my standalones, and my standalones are usually these, something that has bothered me, something that is affecting me either in life or outside in the world, and I can't deal with it and I can't ignore it. So I have to write about it. Like, I have to put these Mafia series aside and I have to write about it. So one of those was police brutality. When all the riots happened, I wrote this book called Mask of Red Death. And it was basically a serial killer who was killing corrupt police officers in the middle of a city rioting. And he called himself Poe, and he considered it like a you know, like Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Mask of Red Death. He considered this one guy Prince Prospero, and he had this whole ball, and it was like all of these like Poe riddles in order to solve the mystery, because I'm a big fan of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
So then we have like Quarantine and Chill Now, which was one of these books where in this moment in life, quarantine happened to hit me when I am the most blessed I've ever been. Like, I couldn't imagine if coronavirus had happened 4 or 5, maybe even 6 years ago. Jesus Christ, you know? So I'm so blessed, and I'm blessed because of my fans and my readers who have funded all my trips and all my life and have helped me clothe my children and feed myself. Yeah. So Quarantine and Chill was just about, hey guys, are y'all okay? Here's a way to escape. I love you so much. We're in quarantine, but you know, I took the novel serious. People, when in the reviews, people say stuff like, oh, this is actually like a serious novel about quarantine. It's not like they hooked up and they're quarantined together and they're having sex. And no, I'm talking about what's going on in the world and what's going on around us and how you can find mental peace in this crazy life. You know, I want to, like you and Beverly were talking about in the interview, you know, it's not just about escape. It's not just about entertainment. I really want to educate and inspire and uplift, you know, because that's what I want to leave. That's the legacy. You know, after a certain amount of books, it's about legacy as an author, I think.
I think so.
You know?
I think so. I mean, and that's the same hope that I have. Like I was talking with friends the other day, and I'm like, I love writing the stories around women who
Yes.
have had some sort of struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
'cause that's like the whole thing, you know. I mean, I know, you know, we write in this world of kind of romance, and you know, people like fairy tales, and I've written my versions of fairy tales. It's like
Okay.
they may not be other people's versions of fairy tales, but hey, you know. But but you know, it's just the fact that I want I want people when they I want people to get emotionally invested in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, you know, in the characters, and when the story is over, I want them to feel like they know the character a little bit. It's like we're
Yes.
like, wait, that could be my cousin XYZ or my auntie, blah blah blah. I want them to feel like they've made a new family member if they like the person, you
Easily.
know, and if
Yes.
they hate the person, I want them to be like, yeah, that's good. I'm glad that person, blah blah blah. You know,
Yes.
like so I can understand it because I'm so bad at writing series. I'm so bad at it.
Yeah.
But I give you credit for having these successful ones in that
Yeah.
the mafia series, and then being able to find these little points where you can break away and write about these other things that are kind of like riding on you, like I need
Yes.
on that, because your audience is your audience. They love your books, they love your writing. And when you take that break and you write this other thing that's on your spirit, then
Oh
like,
yeah.
hey, you know, now you get to open up their minds if they haven't thought about it to something from a different point of view. I love that. That's amazing.
Definitely.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
I have a readers group called K Killers, and it's about, you know, it's a lot of people in there. And I remember before I started writing the book, I just said, "Hey guys, how are y'all doing? What's going on with y'all?" Because this is like third, fourth week of March when everything hit the fan in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Hey, how are y'all? Where are y'all at? What's going on?" And I didn't realize like there were nurses and doctors and janitors and there's people in like somebody was in South Africa, someone was in Japan, like it was all these different people talking about their experiences. Or one woman, she rides with her husband who's a truck driver, and so she's reading as they ride, and she's talking about how it's impacting her. And I was realizing everybody's impacted and everybody's on different levels, high professional or what, everyone different educational backgrounds, and they're all experiencing this hit. You know, the whole world is dealing with this pandemic. So I don't know. I just wanted to stop what I was writing and work on Quarantine and Chill. And I took it seriously because everybody was like, yeah, do it real quick. And then, you know, lots of sex. And I was like, no, we're taking this seriously. This guy, the hero's South Asian, so his family's from India. And you know, we have an Indian wedding in there, and boy, it took me 2 weeks just to learn about the wedding and the ceremonies and the different events, because it's like a 3-day affair.
Yeah, they're
And
beautiful. I got to see one when I was in India.
I want to
Oh my
go to
God.
one.
It
I want to
was
go.
beautiful. The food, the colors, the people. I mean,
The
it was
music.
beautiful.
I
Yeah.
said, look, we're all stuck in the house. We're going to Indian wedding. So it's just chapters and illustrations of the different ceremonies and that. And I thought, and I had one reader, beta reader, who was like, "Oh, I don't know. I think you went too hard on the Indian stuff." I was like, "I'm keeping that stuff in. I did all that research. It's staying in." And that's what everybody talks about when they say they love the book. Oh, I got to go to Indian wedding this year. And that's what I wanted them to experience, you know.
I love that. You know, and I think though, you know, because that's one of the things that, you know, you and I were talking about before is I love opening people's eyes to new
Oh my
cultures
gosh.
and new things. You know, because I was telling somebody, I'm from the South. I love food. We gather around food all
Oh,
the time.
yes.
There's a family event. I don't even like to really cook, but if I have people around me, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
let's go cook something. Like, why is that my go-to? I'm like, where's the food? This whole event is missing food. Why are all you people
Yes.
here? We're not eating, right? Because that's a Southern thing. And
Yes.
then when I went to India, I
Oh,
was
wow.
like, wait, it's like, is this an Indian thing too? You know, it was just every time we went to people's homes, it was like everybody had like
Mhm.
massive displays of food, and they did it to Walmart,
Oh,
but it was just
gosh.
everywhere. And I'm like, then I went to China. What did we do? We gathered around food. I
What
went
part of
to Italy.
China was it?
We went to Hong Kong. We
Wow.
didn't go to the motherland,
No,
you
no,
know,
no. Wow.
the mainland. I said the motherland,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mainland. But it was the same thing in Israel. We would do Shabbat dinner.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
we were out. So it was like I loved it, you know, and so I love that you kept that
Hmm.
part in the book and exposed people
Yes.
to this culture and didn't water it down. You know, I love that
Oh God, no.
I love that you were like, no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna
Oh,
keep
we going because I want to go. You know,
let's
just
go
like
together. I would
just
love
like
to
the
go
Russian
again.
Mafia series
Yeah.
with the Russian Mafia. To me, you know, I've read the Russian Mafia, and it's funny because I did it for a friend. It was for her birthday, and she wanted me to write a Russian Mafia. Initially, I was like, a Russian Mafia. I don't know, you know. And I said, fine, I'm gonna do it. But I would read a lot of them just to research, and I was like, but I'm not learning about Russia. They just a mafia. He's just a hard guy, and they just hook up and
Yeah.
have sex. Like I'm not like learning about Russia.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll read a book with a Russian person in there. I want to know things about Russia, and I want to know about the Russian mafia. What is the structure? How did it come about? I
Yeah.
want to know things. I am curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the whole series became this monster of just, I feel like people, if you read the whole series, you'd have a degree in like Russian history and all types of stuff.
That's awesome. You know, because I have never been to Russia. It
I
is on
want
my list. It's on my list. You know, but that's one of the things because growing up in the southern part of the states, I explored life through entertainment, right?
yes.
So it was like I watched movies where people went to different countries. I read books, but it wasn't until I was older, and I can't even remember when, but there was an author who did a challenge, and they were challenging people to read books by other people from other places. And I was
Wow.
like, yeah, maybe that's true. Everybody I read, whose books I read, are they all Black women? Wait a minute, let me think about it. It's like, it's like every book I read is authored by a Black woman. And I was
Wow.
like, okay, yeah. So I love that. I love that you were like, let me explore Russia because there might be a lot of people out there who,
Yeah.
because they haven't been exposed to it, that right now they might only be reading books by women of color who are of the same whatever as they are,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
So you know, through your desire to educate, you know, and entertain, we keep, you know, stealing from Miss Beverly, to educate and entertain, you
Yes.
know, it's like because of that, you exposing people to Russia in
Yeah.
a different way. So it's, you know, so even though you still give people their fantasy, you still give people their romance that they
Oh yeah, because we're gonna have sex
you
and we're
know,
gonna fall in love, but we got to do it in an interesting way. And
yeah,
I think for interracial romance, interracial is huge for me. That interracial part is big for me. I want to connect the cultures. Let's talk about the cultures. Let's talk about the cultures and how we look at each other. Like the Russian guy is falling in love with a chick from Harlem, and she has this wig collection, and he's so like, just like intrigued by it. He's always like pulling at her. He's just like, you know, they're both constantly teaching each other stuff, and they're going to different places. But when you talked about wanting to go to Russia, and what's crazy about this is I got this idea from looking at Beverly Jenkins on the romance documentary. I think it was called Love Between the Covers. I forgot. It's a romance documentary. She's on it, and there was clips of her or footage of her traveling with her readers. And from that, I came up with this idea to do a Russian readers trip in 2021. And so I have an interest form and people have signed up. 125 people have signed up as interest. And there's authors that are signed. Some authors is like,
hey, what about the authors?
Yeah, a couple authors is like, hey, Kenya, can I get on the show? I was like, girl, yeah, we just going to Russia. Let's go.
Look, that sounds awesome. Tell me more about this. What is this?
Yes, it's I worked with Geraldine Gibson who did, because I listen, I like to work with professionals who I don't know how to do this. I'm not gonna try. Let's go with Geraldine, who has organized several trips and with women. And she put the whole trip together. So it's about 5 days. Like I said, it's summer, July 2021, and it's going to St. Petersburg. It starts in St. Petersburg, and we look at all the different places there, and then we go down to Moscow, because those are where the two key places for my series, St. Petersburg and Moscow. So, and I got the idea from freaking Beverly Jenkins, which is crazy.
That's a look at that. That is like some whole 360 thing there, right?
Girl, that was insane. That's why I told you yesterday I was looking at that. I looked at the video twice because it was like, she's inspired me so much in life.
Yeah.
And that whole Russian trip and all of that, which, I'm hoping everything, it's actually not 2021, it's 2022.
Okay.
Because I wanted people to get time, and I'm looking at traveling and everything like that. And how coronavirus is going to be to impact travel.
Yeah.
But and I wanted people to get enough time to, prepare and pay for it. Because a lot of people were like, listen, I'm afraid to go to Russia. Or a lot of readers were like, I've never been outside of this country. Or I'm afraid to leave without my kids or to leave without my husband. It's like, I know, I understand. Come on, just come with us. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Ooh, 2022. Hold on.
2022, July. I'm going to send you the information.
If you see me in the back of the crowd, because 2022.
You might already be in Russia, 2022.
You never know. God knows. I'm trying to see the world. I mean, I love it. I love that you're doing that, because when I was doing research for the interview with Beverly, and I was looking at some clips, I saw, some of the stuff with the fans. What really is what you just said is what I saw in those fans. They're like, oh, that's why she wrote that, and oh, that's why this. That's the thing, like when I write about something in my books and it's about some place that I've traveled to, I may put like a little hint to it, like I'll be like the sheep farms of Belfast. Like before I ever went to Ireland, I never really realized that those beautiful greens that you see when you look at a lot of pictures of Ireland, a lot of it is because of the sheep farms. I'm like, what is
really?
Yeah, I didn't know about it until I went past the sheep farms. And I'm like, oh, that's why it's so beautiful and green. It's for the sheep. But, it's like, so when I throw stuff like that in there, and I'll talk about, just whatever, it's like being able to fold it in a way to where it almost feels seamless to me. It makes me feel so happy that I can toss it in there. And if the reader is reading and they catch it, it's like,
yes. Books are supposed to be for escape.
Yes.
The escape. I want to go into the world. I want to taste the food. I want to smell it. I want to see it. If I don't learn something, I'm going to be upset. I'm taking a star away. I want to travel. In your book, I want to be best friends with, I want to feel like he said, oh, that's a family member.
That's it.
That's
it.
Like
that's somebody I care about, and I don't like the way he treated her. Because why he treated her? My sister, cousin. I want to see the whole head move.
That's right.
That's what I want, and that's I love that, that
Mm-hmm.
not only are you exposing your readers to this on the pages, but now you have
Yes.
this awesome trip because a lot of women who are parents, or mothers, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women who are, married or whatever,
Oh,
they
yes.
just, they're afraid. They're like, where do I start?
And
Like,
I've
they
been
don't even
there.
have a passport. So it's like,
Oh,
where do
yeah.
you start? And you feel comfortable,
Yes.
because they've read your books. Now some of
Mm-hmm.
them have met you at events. So
Yes.
they
They
feel
followed
comfortable.
me. They followed my crazy behind. They see
Yeah,
I'm jumping here and I'm here
yeah,
and I'm here. And people, I remember last year, people were like, "Where do you live?" And it's like, I don't know. We don't have a home currently. We have a suitcase. We each have a
yeah.
suitcase.
I'm not mad. You know what? It's like, it's really because, I was telling someone, and I shared with you a little bit, and I
Mm-hmm.
shared in this video, and I've shared in other videos, when my parents passed away, those are the
Mm.
things that I did start to look at. It's like, what do I really need? you know
Yes.
and so,
Yes.
as you start to explore life, it's like, who do I want to explore it with? What do I
Exactly.
need? Like, who am I carrying with me? What am I
Yeah.
carrying with me? It's like, and honestly, I've been living out of a suitcase for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I'm like, what do I need? What do I
Isn't
need?
it freeing?
It
It's
is.
freeing.
It's like, I'm telling people, it's like, don't be afraid, you know,
No.
take that chance. You took a chance. You were living in
Yeah.
that apartment. Your children took a chance on you because they
For
didn't like,
real.
oh, my mom was
Thank
crazy.
God.
Her hair is platinum. Come get us now.
She
You know?
crazy. And terrified. I was terrified a lot. But I spent years, because my thing was this. I had gone from, me and my ex-husband, when we were together, 2 cars, big house, pool in the back. Like, we've been doing things. And then for us to go swoop down in the poverty was insane to me.
Yeah.
Old raggedy car, I called it Hustlemobile. And it was like, I thought I had failed. It was like, I failed. And I knew I had the degrees to get a job.
Yeah.
And parts of the time I felt selfish. Like, I'm selfishly writing because I want to write. And now my kids don't have the brand new jackets like other kids and the nice clothes. And they don't care. You start to realize that life is not about your things. It's about experiences.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're going to remember.
Yeah. It's
The
about those
things you've done.
experiences, the relationships, the love.
Yes.
It's about to me, it's about all of those things. It's about not limiting yourself, not accepting
Yes.
others' views or opinions of you as actual things,
That's the
and
truth.
believing. Look at you. You believed in yourself, you
Yeah.
took a chance, and look at you now. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And it's like, and so when like I said, when I do my stories, I know it's like, it's always like, I'll have somebody coming out of a divorce or coming out of a relationship, or maybe hasn't even been in a relationship for few gobs of time.
Been a
Because
minute.
like, I like those women to remember that they are strong, and they should take,
Yes.
you should believe in yourself and take that chance on yourself, that you are worthy of everything, Kenya. You deserve it
Yes.
all. So,
Yes.
so I love that. So so your trip now, because I want to make sure people, if there's still space, I want to make sure that you
Oh,
give
yeah.
people details about it. But before we do, tell us about, like, do you have any books coming out soon?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are we at on the series? And then give us a little bit about that trip so we know how to get the details.
Okay. First, I'll say the trip because I'll forget.
Okay.
It's in my K Killers group, and it's in Can You Write, my author fan page. I have to post it some more places. I just wanted to get an interest form now, because obviously it's too early to do any deposits until this travel industry situation is figured out.
Yes.
So, like I said before, the interest is like 120 people who have signed up just to hear more about it. Okay. It's 5 days, St. Petersburg to Moscow. I don't want to yell out the price yet because I can't remember. But I think it's like 2,000 or something like that. It's low because, you know, everybody
Oh, like, hey.
it's down there, you know, and there's like food is accounted for, lodging is accounted for. Geraldine hooked us up, touring. Yes, food, lodging, touring. I think maybe some meals you might have to pay for. Obviously, all the breakfasts are good. And there's like 2 major sit-down dinners that we all participate in where it's like kind of like a Russian dinner and all of that. But I'm super excited about it.
Sign up. You about to take
Listen,
my
you got to sign up.
Sell more books. Buy my book.
I told you.
I can go with Kenya to Russia.
And it's a bunch of authors that have jumped on this trip. I know Keita Kendrick signed up, Theodore Taylor signed up, a couple people where I was like, okay, maybe we might figure something out with the authors and the readers. I don't know. Yeah. But I'm excited about that trip. That's going to be a blast.
It sounds so
oh
amazing.
My God.
I've always wanted to go, but again, it's a place where, you know, because now I do a lot of travel by myself, but back then when I really was thinking about Russia, I wasn't doing a lot of travel by myself. It was like, ooh.
It's a little scary, right?
Can I do Russia by myself?
It's going to be.
Can I do it by myself?
Geraldine had gone to Russia. She's been to Russia so many times. So that was what.
Where has Geraldine not been? That's the question.
Come on.
I'm gonna interview.
You got to interview Geraldine.
I'm calling Geraldine. I'm calling Geraldine.
But then, can you just imagine all this massive group of just beautiful Black professional women just running around Russia? And I have a plan so we go to my series. So this series, I'm on book 6 now for the series for the Russian Mafia. It's called The Lion and the Mouse. The main guy is the lion. He's called this woman a mouse because she's so tricky and so slick. She's able to like sneak in and sneak out and do all of these things, right? And he gets in trouble a lot. And like in the story, the fable of the lion and mouse, the mouse always kind of gets him out of sticky situations. She's really extremely smart woman from Harlem who's been through a lot. So, and he is like this mega boss of all bosses type of guy who just falls over heels in love with her. So anyway, we're on book 6 now. It started in New York, it goes to Paris, then it goes to Prague, and now it's in Russia. And then this book is in Italy, because you know I like to travel, so my characters are gonna travel.
I love some Italy. That's really nice. I
we're in Italy
I didn't
now.
realize that you had done that much country hopping.
Oh, dang. They are hopping.
Okay.
So, and I plan on there's so many secondary, you know how readers can be where they like, oh, and I want this person to have a book and this person to have a book. So now I'm going to start working on secondary characters. But by the time we do this Russian trip, it's probably going to be, I don't know, 11, 12 books in this series. Wow. And I plan to have a, book for this Russian trip in this series that they're only going to get, they're going to get before everyone else on the trip, basically. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
You put out a year, Kenya. Okay. Honestly, when you said about 11, I'm like, wait a minute, you're on book 6. That's only a year and a half away. Yeah. How many books are you put out in a year?
Ooh, in my rougher times, I think one time I put out maybe 11 books. That was the biggest growth. But that was a rough year. That you're talking about gaining weight because you're just sitting there. You're talking about hands aching. It was a lot. But so now though, I'm at 6, 7 books is what I keep at. 6, 7 novels. And these books are becoming
not shut my mouth yet. Oh my God.
And these books are huge. We're talking about 400 and something pages. And it trips me out with some.
Said these were some 15,000 word novella or short stories.
No.
What?
Massive novels. And I get readers are like, when am I going to get the, hey. I'm killing myself over here. You gonna need to wait. I just gave you several thousand pages this year. I'm not doing any more writing. Just leave me alone.
Right,
I'm not dating.
I'm
Y'all need
giving
to
you
let
a
me go.
hand clap. Can you see my hand clap? Oh my. I'm over here like, yeah, I'm trying to stick to like a 2-book a year situation. And you just said you went from 11 to 6. What? Yeah, that's
Man,
amazing.
it's a lot. It's called not having, but I no dating. You know, there's sacrifices.
But look, you don't have the day now.
I have no time for a man right now, but eventually.
Those stories interesting. You're gonna have to keep.
I said when the corona stuff ends, I am going to date again. That's what I said.
Look, well, I have not uttered those words. We'll see.
Yes, you're gonna date too, Angela. You're dating too. We need to date.
Anywho, what about this other series? Where are we at in the other one?
Okay, the French series, so it's interacting with the Lion series. Like I said, they're kind of like the villains. For each series, the other characters are the villains. That now they're in Italy too, of course, because you know both the series are. Missing Hearts, I just put Missing Hearts in quarantine and chill out. Missing Hearts was one of those fashion novels where I'm writing and I'm seeing missing Black kids all the time, and it's, you know, lots of little Black girls going missing, and it just breaking my heart as a mom. Decided to take a break, write this book. And so this book is one of those, it's really entertaining. You would think it was scary. A lot of people are like, I don't know if I want to read this topic about missing Black girls. Listen, I told them, don't worry, it's me, I'm a mom. So I did it well. You actually laugh in the book, even though it's these 2 FBI agents chasing after this serial killer who's preying on young Black girls in a southern town, right, in Georgia. Lots of food and gathering, right? Mm-hmm. The church is a center of the novel. Racism in the town and how this town has progressed through slavery is a huge part of the novel. And it was one of those things where I had to get out of my spirit. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of my favorite books. It's one of those books that I'm glad is in my legacy portfolio. And
that's like, I don't know, you know, I'm not a parent, and it's like some things when I'm reading them, it's almost like I have to take a step away, and you know, it gets so ruinous. I'm like, how would a person, you know, deal with that? And just even as you were saying that, because, you know, there's so much about, you know, children of color, women of color, who go missing, and the energy that's put behind that not being as powerful as we all think it, you know, it should be, you know. And I mean, and it even just, it made me think of an article that a friend of mine shared the other day that I shared on Facebook, and I was just like, even as you were just talking, I was like, ooh, Kenya, I wanted that awareness. Like your friends, I would probably have to, you know, and that's it, because, you know, I love reading those types of stories. Yeah. Now, but it would probably put me in that space where I'm like,
it took, I remember when I put it out, people were like, I don't know. And you see, if you look at some of the reviews, people will be like, I was nervous. I was scared. I wasn't sure if I wanted to write this, because Kenya, you know, I will go into detail about killing and death. Yeah. But I couldn't do it with the children, because me personally, I cannot look at movies that harm children. I can't, like, there's certain things I can't look at. So, you know, it's not like the deaths and how everything is handled, it's not as it would be if they were adults, mangled bodies and all that stuff, you know. Yeah. And like I said, surprisingly, there are laughs in the book, and there is fun, because I'm a fun person, you know. And there's a lot of discussion on food and church in the South, because I went to high school in South Carolina. And so, you know, and the South is it's its own. Phoenix Daniels is talking about how Chicago, in your interview, because you know I stalk you now.
That's okay, I stalk you. You know what I did as soon as you put a comment. I was like, ooh, I'm all about it. It's okay. I stopped you too. So.
But I love when she says Chicago is its own character in the novels, and that's how the South is for me in Missing Hearts. It's its own character. I mean, and you know, because you grew up in the South.
Yeah.
It's its own style. It's its own language. When you get together and you're eating, and you have your music, and you have your ways, and it's just, you know, it was a good book to write. But, you know, so Missing Hearts, Quarantine and Chill, and then now I'm writing book 6 of this Lion and Mouse series, and it's going to explode in August. So it's all these books that I'm going to come out with. So I'm excited.
I think you just became my heroes. I'm like 6 books. You know, the only person I know who has done something like that before is Cassandra DeWitt, where I think she said 1 year she did something like 13 books.
Woo!
So I do not understand how you can do it.
Energy.
But it goes to my whole motto that I believe that women are amazingly strong.
Yes.
And it's crazy to me that you are road schooling your children.
Road schooling. Having blast.
You know, divorced single mom. You know what I mean? That you were doing all of that. You know,
and all of these things scared me 10 years ago. The idea of traveling with the kids scared me. The idea of not having a man. What am I going to do without a man? And I could never be a single mother. How would I raise my child? All of those things scare me. And then once you face, like, I remember 1 year, I think it was 2016, I said, I'm like, every month I'm going to do something that scares me. So we went on a trip and I did this underground cave tour where you go underground and you're in the water and you're doing all this stuff. Ooh. And it was up in Mexico.
Is that like
it was like spelunking or something, and that's scary to me. But it was like every month I wanted to challenge myself and face a fear. Because once you face that fear, you're like, that wasn't a big deal. And you become stronger.
I think so. I tell people, like, I have a fear of bridges, and
me too.
Heights. I don't like heights. So I got a bunch of my friends together. I was like, let's walk over this bridge. They were like, what?
I did that, yes.
I was like, let's walk this bridge. And, you know, and so now when I drive over a bridge, I'm like, well, it's not like you haven't walked over a bridge. Why can't you drive over a bridge? You know,
exactly.
You know, and I had that mindset of what you're saying is that, because I felt like I had fallen into just kind of like this thing where I was allowing fear to overtake me. And so like you, I had this thing where I was like, I'm going to try to face my fears in various ways, you know, and part of my travel was one of those things where I was like, nope, sister got to get her bags packed.
Yes.
Roll out, nobody rolled.
Girl,
let's do this.
And I love you've traveled so many places. Now when I go somewhere, I'm gonna ask you about it because I want to go to Ireland and India and all of these different places.
Look, I might be with you in Russia. We can sit over tea.
And you're right about fear, though. Fear is the #1 reason why we don't do anything. If it's not fear, it's hate. But fear will stop you from writing. Fear will stop you from trying. Fear will stop you from traveling.
It will stop you. You will literally be stuck. And it's one of the things that, like, I had a book that came out recently, and it was something that Cassandra DeWitt had asked us to do. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, you know, Cassandra, you know, so it was supposed to be fantasy.
Okay.
It was my version of fantasy, Kenya. You know?
Right.
So it was about a wife and a husband, and it was my version of a ghost story. That's fantasy.
I like it. It's 100% fantasy.
It's like, but then it's like as soon as it come out, I remember a comment that somebody made, and they were like, they didn't like it. I was like,
what?
Why don't you like it? You know what I mean? But then, like somebody else, they were like, this book is interesting. It's you know, and she kind of like said it was like kind of weird, like nothing she had ever
Read before,
read
which is
before,
good.
and
Yeah.
that people should really pick it up and read it because at first she was like, oh, it's something something. She's like, you know what? No, it's interesting. It's different. It's not like anything I've read before. And I was like, there you go, girl.
That's what
Feed
I'm
on
talking
me.
about.
Because I don't want it to be something that you expect. I want it to be something that pulls you in.
Same
Read
old,
it.
same type of crap. No.
Exactly. But it dealt with that whole thing of fear and loss.
Yes.
And it was this woman who was trying to battle her fear, but she gave into her fear. And what I wanted was for people to struggle with her, and I wanted them to be mad at her, and I wanted them to be like, no, don't do that, it's stupid. Because fear, it takes away our opportunity
Yeah.
to change and growth and
100%.
adventure and love and joy and happiness. And I wanted people to be so super mad at her. And I wanted them to not know what she was going to do until she actually did it. So I gave her a lot of false starts. Like, oh, yep, she's in it now. Like, nope. So I love the way you are exploring life, Kenya. I love it.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Life is fun. It took me, my biggest regret is that it took me so long to realize that life was a journey and that the world was a playground, and that, we need to have fun and we need to enjoy as much as we can on it, whatever budget we have.
Yes.
And just get out there. That took me a minute. So that's like my only sadness. It's like, I wish I had this mentality in my 20s. Boy, the craziness I would have gotten into,
We probably would have bumped into each other somewhere out there.
Lord, I don't know who I would be. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. I needed to go through what I had to go through. But my kids know. And they don't have the fear that I had or grew up with. And they don't have the mind state. When I was growing up, it was, like I would say, people would say, oh, that's that white people stuff you doing. Yeah. And that's like, who cares about any of that crap? Yeah. Get out, explore, enjoy, have fun.
Be true to who you feel yourself to be.
Yes.
You know yourself to be. Not who people tell you have to be.
Thank you.
Because when I originally left Tennessee as a child, I left, or a young adult, I should say. But when I left because when I looked around, I saw that people said that as a Black woman in Memphis, this is what they were going to give me. And I decided that, you know what? I think I want more than that. So I'm out. Right? And I left. And then I came back. And I think that that's one of the things that I admire that you're doing.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I love the fact that no matter how many people around you were questioning what you were doing and how many people around you were, just saying you shouldn't, I love the fact that you basically, you persevere. You decided, I don't really care what other people say, what they think.
I got to do it. I have to be me.
I love that. I love that you have the strength within yourself to continue to follow your own journey and walk your own path. Because look at what you've done now. You're totally an inspiration to me. So I know you're to your kids, and you're an inspiration to those 120 whatever people who have signed up for a trip that you don't even have set yet. They're just like, tell us more.
I just wanted to see, is this crazy? Because I want to take y'all to Russia. Y'all, okay, you too. Okay. Oh, so we all, okay, we're going to do this.
We all going to be crazy together.
We're going to do it?
Okay. I love it. I mean, but that's the kind of that's really what you're inspiring. Yeah. You're inspiring other people who were, more pensive, about taking that opportunity. You're inspiring them to take a chance too.
Because, we both have been there.
Yeah.
Before that big trip, we both was like, "Ooh, is this one? Should I be doing this?
Yeah.
This is a little crazy." We all get that moment. And like you said, I'm sure someone has told you were crazy for traveling, and oh, girl, you always out. Or, them little hints. But I one thing I tell people all the time: just ignore people.
tell us how to reach out to you via social media, your Facebook, IG, whatever you're doing. How do we reach out to you just to say hi? Where do we get your books? And how do we find out more about this trip as far as Russia? How do we get that interest for? I know you said it's in your K Killers.
Yes, I need to put it in my major website. I didn't realize it was going to blow up the way it did.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to have it on the website. My website is KenyaWriteBooks.com. KenyaWriteBooks.com. I'm on Instagram, Kenya Write Books. I have an author fan page on Facebook, author Kenya Write. I have my K Killers group, which is a Facebook reading group, and we are always doing stuff in there. I'm constantly having authors in there. We'll have you in there soon in a live, and we're doing giveaways all the time. Also, I said Instagram, Twitter, it's Kenya Write Books, and then I have my newsletter. So and I'm on YouTube, Kenya Write Books. So I'm all over the place. There's no way you cannot get in touch with the queen. Like I said before, not only thank you for having me on here, thank you for having Beverly Jenkins and Phoenix Daniels and all of these different authors that you showcase and promote, because we need Black female authors. We need outlets and we need places. And this is the type of interview, and your interviews are the things that people are going to be looking at 4, 5, 6 years from now. They're going to go back and look at all these great interviews that you're doing. You're killing it. You are killing it.
I love talking to you guys. I think that's one of the things that we all do whenever we get together at events. I tell people all the time, it's like one of the reasons I love those events is because I get to the people that I've met online, they get to come alive to me. So it's not just the readers who are like, oh, I met Kenya. It's like, I'm like, hey, I met Kenya. So we get to know each other outside of our work and outside of helping each other promote online. We get to know each other as humans, and so I want all the people that, come in contact with me to get to meet the authors I've met in the way that I've met them, because I get to meet you guys in a totally different way, than maybe some of them do. And this is my opportunity to introduce them to the friends that I've met along the way. Like I said, you are living one heck of a life, lady. I love it.
And it's you too, for sure.
Amazing. Awesome. All right, everybody out there in podcast land and everybody out there on YouTube, I am Angela K. Austin, and this is my girl, Kenya Write. So go and check out her Mafia series, go and check out her standalone, find her on social media. Come on and join us on this trip to Russia. Look, I already put myself
come on.
Look, I got to sell some books to get on that trip. It's like we all are doing this together, all right?
Yes.
Everybody, I want to say thank you for joining us, and I hope that you will join us both again soon.
Thank you too for having me on here.
Yeah.